Hey, what's up? So in this video, I'm either gonna make a lot of people jealous or I'm gonna make them scoff and move along with their life. There's not really gonna be much of an in-between. I am going to have an overarching theme. That theme is China is a film photographer's paradise. So a little bit of background information about me and why I'm making this claim. I have lived in China for 5 years and I haven't gone back home to America in 4 of those years. The last time I went home was in Christmas 2019, and I've been in China ever since due to some world events. And I myself mostly shoot black and white film, so if you are also a big black and white film shooter, this will definitely be more up your alley. If you shoot color, there definitely is some about color in here. I do occasionally shoot color. I just don't develop it at home myself. I mostly shoot black and white just because black and white film is cheaper, easier to develop at home. I can do the whole process start to finish in my kitchen, basically. I just don't enjoy color quite as much. Even when I shoot digital, I still shoot black and white, so color film isn't really my thing. But color film is a thing in China. So because I've been in China for so long, a lot of these price comparisons will be a little bit of a toss-up, a little bit of a guess. All right, so background information aside, finished with that. Let's talk about what I really wanted to talk about in this video. There are two main kinds of film, I would say. And I'm not talking about black and white versus color. I'm talking about consumer grade film versus alternative film, such as aerographic film, X-ray film, things like that you wouldn't normally put in your 35mm or medium format camera. But in China, the consumer grade film, such as Kodak, Ilford, Fuji, the big three, they are pretty much the same price. So I won't be talking too much about that. But what I will be talking about is the abundance of alternative films, specifically aerographic film. So if you've ever shot Rolly film, then you'll have an idea of what I'm talking about. Rolly is one of the bigger names, but actually all their film is just aerographic film respooled. For example, Rolly Superpan 200 is Agfa Avifit 200. Rolly RPX 25 and Rolly Retro 80S is Agfa Avifit 80. Rolly Infrared used to be Agfa Avifit 400, but I think it's changed to something else now. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think that Agfa Avifit 200 is also Rolly Infrared 400. It's just push to stop. And along with like Rolly Retro 400S, I believe is similar. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. Is like this is old Agfa aerographic film just respooled for modern use to put in your cameras. And that kind of film is extremely popular in China. There are some like companies that are trying to make consumer grade film, such as Shanghai GP3, which is also called Jiancheng in Chinese. So they are actually making their own film. They actually have their own film factory and they make everything themselves. Now, if you've seen my last video, you might have a guess about the quality of Shanghai GP3, specifically the modern version. They used to have an old one that was a lot worse. It is much better now. But outside of these companies trying to be consumer grade films, there's one name in particular that I know and like and often buy, and that is Lucky. Now there is another one called Lucky SHD, I believe, which is not the same. This is a different Lucky. This Lucky, from the research that I've done, is Chinese military aerial film, like reconnaissance film, that has expired and since been sold to the public. And there are a couple of these stores here in China that buy it up and respool it and then sell it on the internet. Just kind of like the on Taobao, which is like the Chinese version of like eBay. And this stuff, since it is not consumer grade film and it is not fresh, it is very expired in some cases. Other cases they get it like a year or two after it expired. But it's not too bad, especially for black and white film. It is extremely cheap. Let me just show you. Check this out. This is 20 rolls of film. Can you guess how much this cost me for 20 rolls of film? This is 120, 50 ISO black and white film. This cost me $30 for 20 rolls of film. And not only that, I got this and this. This is Black and White Film Developer. Some of you may have heard of this. It's called PCT. See right here, PCT. PCT is very similar to Rodinal, or Rodinal, or however you want to say it. It has the same dilutions, 1 to 25, 1 to 50, 1 to 100. It can be used for stand development. But this, for a 500 milliliter bottle, was less than $10. So imagine you use stand development or 1 to 100 dilution for every film that you shoot. All 20 of these. That is so much value. And the results are extremely good. I have used this many times. This is actually the second bottle that I'm on, just because of how good it is. And there are other developers too, and other chemicals as well, like Stop Bath and Fixer. PCT is just my favorite one. There are some others. There's one called Junxian, which is specifically made for expired aerial film. This company who makes their own chemicals, they developed a developer to get the best quality out of expired film. So that's like the bulk of what I'm talking about for black and white film. Now we can talk a little bit about color film as well. I have heard from some people, like specifically on YouTube, that if you want to shoot a single roll of, say, Portra 400 in 120, and you don't develop at home and you don't scan at home, one single roll would cost you around $30-ish. So we have this 20 rolls of film plus a $10 bottle of developer for the cost of a single roll of Portra 400. Now, what if you don't want to shoot black and white? What if you want to shoot color? You don't have to buy this. There is, unfortunately, no aerographic film as popular and cheap as this that is color. Now, there is some aerographic color film, like, for example, Kodak Aerocolor series. There's Aerocolor 3 and Aerocolor 4, which is not Aerochrome. Aerochrome is also an aerial film. But Aerocolor, which is becoming a little bit more popular. Recently I watched a Metal Fingers video. He was talking about the 220 version of Aerocolor 4. They call it Reflex Lab Pro Color 220, something like that. So that's definitely an option as well, another kind of aerial film, like the color aerial film. It's a little bit more expensive than black and white, but that's just how it goes. Now, let's say you don't want to shoot aerial film. Let's say you want to shoot something from one of these big companies like Kodak, Fuji, or Ilford. Well, as pretty much everybody knows, unless you've been living under a rock, Kodak Vision 3 is becoming really popular. The 50D, 250D, 200T, and 500T. Those are also extremely popular in China, way more popular in China than it seems to be in America, from what I've seen on YouTube. Now, a ton of companies in China, a ton of stores in China, have seen the value and the profits that they can get from respooling Vision 3. So you can find Vision 3 at pretty much any store that sells film. Some stores only sell respooled Vision 3. I believe the price of the film itself, like a single spool of 250D or something like that, is about the same price in China as it would be in America. The difference is, where can you get it developed? Because Vision 3 cinema film is developed in ECN2 chemicals. Now, I've heard some people complaining that in America, maybe it's changed by now, but previously, there were not many places that develop ECN2. You had to send your film to a specific lab just to do ECN2. Well, that's the difference here in China. Any lab that develops film always develops ECN2, or at least 99% of them. I have never found a single lab that doesn't develop ECN2 here, just because of how popular Vision 3 film is. So that, for color shooters, is really, really nice. And I believe the processing cost of ECN2 is cheaper in China because of how widely available it is. It's cheaper than in America. It's like, I don't know, if you want to get it processed and scanned, it's like, what's it, like $5 maybe? I'll have to double check that. So, in conclusion, let's put these two together. The cheap aerographic film, respooled cinema film, how cheap it is. And let's add one more thing on top of that to make it even better. In my last video, I talked about my GW690 and putting 35mm film in it and changing the back of the camera from 120 to 220. Well, guess what? Alternative formats are also very big in China. Just this morning, I was looking at getting some 50D in 120, the IMAX version. Well, I went to a place called Alien Film, who is one of these big respoolers of Vision 3. And I found out they offer 3 of the Vision 3 series in 220 as well. So they just get the huge bulk format, the huge bulk roll, and they just make it longer and don't put backing paper on it. Seems pretty easy if they can respool IMAX film They can respool it into 120 or 220, and that's what they did. So I can get 50D, 250D, and XX all in 220 format. And it's about the same price as 2 rolls of 120. It's slightly more to get it in 220 instead of 2 rolls of 120. And going back to the company I mentioned earlier, Shanghai GP3, whatever problems I may have with their canisters or how scratchy their film is sometimes, if you're not careful, they offer a ton of formats. Not only do they offer 35mm and 120, just like every other company does, they also offer 220, 620, and 127. I've never even seen a 127 camera in real life. I've never held one in my hands. Or a 620 camera for that matter either. But they offer these at a reasonable price. Black and white 100 ISO film. And the companies that sell this Lucky film, they also buy the huge bulk rolls from the government or the military or whoever, and they can cut it down however they want to. So not only is this in 120, this is also in 220, 35mm, and 127. I haven't seen any 620, but 127, 220, and 120 is good enough. Literally all you have to do is go online on Taobao and search for whatever you want, and I guarantee someone will have it. China is a film photographer's paradise. Thank you for watching.